Welcome to the Special Forces in World War II podcast, transmitting on this frequency. This broadcast is your dedicated channel for comprehensive intelligence regarding World War II Special Forces operations. Our transmissions encompass in-depth analysis of their strategic maneuvers, cutting-edge equipment, illustrious biographies, and an array of pertinent subjects. The orchestration of these transmissions is executed by the expert team of the Special Forces in World War II website, a squad deeply immersed in the historical theatre. For further insights, visual aids, and captured moments frozen in time, navigate to our virtual headquarters at worldwar2-soft.com. Your immersion into the front lines of knowledge awaits. Over and out. Welcome back to another episode of the Special Forces in World War II podcast, where we explore the bold, the daring, and the extraordinary stories, tactics, and equipment of the special and specialized forces whose actions helped shape the outcome of the largest conflict in modern history. I'm your host, Michael Weyers, and as always, we're here to uncover the hidden stories behind the remarkable units whose courage and innovation defined the battlefield. Today, we focus on one of the most remarkable and unconventional formations of the entire war, the British 79th Armoured Division. Created at a moment when the Allies confronted the hard lessons of Dieppe and the growing challenge of assaulting fortified coastlines, the division was built for a single purpose: breaking through defenses that ordinary infantry and armor could not overcome. Under the leadership of Major-General Percy Hobart, the 79th Armoured Division became a vast laboratory of engineering and battlefield innovation. In the months before D-Day, its workshops and training grounds produced an extraordinary range of specialized armored vehicles: mine-flailing crabs, bunker-busting AVREs, flame-throwing crocodiles, amphibious duplex drive tanks, and armored carriers designed to bring infantry forward under fire. These machines, often strange, sometimes experimental, and almost always ahead of their time, were grouped under a name that became famous across the Allied armies: Hobart's Funnies. In this episode, we explore how the 79th Armoured Division was formed, how its unique equipment was developed and tested, and how these units were deployed across northwest Europe. From the beaches of Normandy to the urban battles of Le Havre and Boulogne, from the flooded terrain of Walcheren Island to the Great Rhine crossing in Operation Plunder, the division's specialized armor reshaped the Allied approach to combat. This is the story of how engineering expertise, tactical imagination, and relentless training turned a once experimental force into one of the most decisive assets of the Northwest Europe campaign. So, let's start at the beginning. By late summer 1940, Prime Minister Winston Churchill is growing deeply dissatisfied with Britain's senior commanders. British armored forces still show no real progress in formations, doctrine, or equipment. Churchill begins looking beyond the usual circle of generals for someone who can break the deadlock. As autumn arrives, several advisors point him toward one name: Major-General Percy Hobart, a man known for ideas, energy, and relentless drive. Churchill does not give Hobart control of all armored policy, but in October 1940, he takes a decisive step. He instructs the Chief of the Imperial General Staff, General Sir John Dill, to appoint Hobart to command the next armoured division that forms. Dill strongly dislikes Hobart's methods and personality. He tries to block the appointment. Churchill refuses. In a letter dated October 19, 1940, he reminds Dill that Britain is at war, fighting for survival. The army cannot be led only by officers who have never caused controversy. This is the moment, Churchill says, to test men of imagination and drive. not merely those considered safe by conventional standards. Hobart returns to active command the following month. He takes over the newly raised 11th Armoured Division. His appointment goes against the clear wishes of much of the military establishment. For the next 2 years, Hobart drills his division relentlessly. His own energy and high standards spread through the entire formation. Those who cannot keep pace are removed. He draws on training methods he developed earlier with the 1st Armoured Brigade and the 7th Armoured Division. By focusing almost entirely on the division's internal training, he manages for a time to avoid fresh arguments with higher headquarters. In the spring of 1942, the War Office signals that the division may soon deploy to North Africa, probably to Tunisia. Churchill visits during training. He leaves impressed by Hobart and by the division's readiness, but controversy returns. As deployment approaches in the autumn, senior officers again raise Hobart's age and health. They argue that he should not serve overseas. The move to North Africa is quietly cancelled. The 11th Armoured Division remains fully trained, but embarrassment for Hobart is avoided, at least for the moment. Then comes the disastrous raid on Dieppe in August 1942. Dieppe reveals every weakness in Allied amphibious and assault operations. Infantry and standard armor cannot force a defended beach without specialized support. Tanks land on loose shingle and lose traction. Many become trapped against the sea wall. Engineers lack the tools to breach obstacles under fire. Minefields and anti-tank ditches remain untouched. Communications fail. The assault force cannot advance beyond the waterfront. British commanders study the lessons in full. The conclusions are clear. Future operations will require purpose-built armored vehicles designed to overcome the exact problems seen at Dieppe: mines, obstacles, anti-tank positions, fortified strongpoints. Late in 1942, General Sir Alan Brooke replaces Dill as Chief of the Imperial General Staff. Brooke is deeply concerned by what he sees of British preparations for a future assault on northwest Europe. Early fighting in North Africa strengthens his doubts. He concludes that British armoured forces must adopt a far more vigorous and offensive posture if they are to match German armoured strength. In January 1943, the Casablanca Conference postpones a cross-channel assault. Allied leaders instead choose a Mediterranean strategy, striking the weaker southern flank of the Axis. The delay gives Brooke something essential: time. Time to reshape British armoured forces. Time to build the specialised capabilities the next great invasion will demand. The 79th Armoured Division forms on August 14, 1942. At this stage, it is a normal armoured formation under Northern Command. It serves in Britain with no special role. Its structure is entirely conventional. The division centres on the 27th Armoured Brigade, with infantry, artillery, and engineer units supporting it. This arrangement does not last long. The division is only months old and already faces disbandment. By April 1943, the infantry element, the 185th Infantry Brigade, is withdrawn. The attached artillery regiments leave soon afterwards. Most of the engineer units follow, and by November 1943, they too are gone. During this uncertain period, General Sir Alan Brooke, the Chief of the Imperial General Staff, recognizes a growing need for specialized armored vehicles. On March 11, 1943, he decides that the 79th Armored Division should not be broken up. Instead, he offers its command to Major-General Percy Hobart. With this appointment, Hobart receives a unique mission. He is to test and develop any equipment, any tactical idea, and any innovation that might support an amphibious landing in France. All of this work is to be driven forward under a single senior officer, Hobart. This decision reflects Churchill's long-standing belief that British infantry should attack behind armour and be supported by mechanical means. Churchill has pressed for special weapons since 1939, during his return to the Admiralty. Even then, he argues for explosive devices and mines designed for use in harbours and rivers. He also builds a close relationship with a small War Office organisation known as MD1, later nicknamed Churchill's Toy Shop. This group produces many specialised weapons: limpet mines, sticky bombs, the PIAT, and the spigot mortar. After 1943, several of these devices become directly relevant to Hobart and his new command. Britain's choice to dedicate an entire division to experimentation stands in sharp contrast to American practice. The United States Army still argues internally about the role of armor in its structure. Disputes continue over doctrine, tactics, and the control of armored units. By late 1941, American industry delivers the M4 Sherman tank. It will later show weaknesses against modern German designs, but at this time, it far surpasses earlier British tanks in reliability and combat performance. After the Sherman's success at El Alamein in October 1942, the British adopt it enthusiastically as their main battle tank. American institutions show unity when it comes to producing the Sherman in vast numbers. They do not show the same unity in developing specialized armored equipment. Instead, new ideas emerge across several experimental tracks: mine-clearing systems, flamethrowers, rocket launchers, armored bridge gear, amphibious devices. Some projects reach the battlefield, others never leave the proving grounds. Responsibility is scattered across the Ordnance Department, the Armored Board, the Corps of Engineers, and other agencies. Work spreads across Edgewood Arsenal, Aberdeen Proving Ground, Fort Knox, and multiple training centers. This fragmented structure slows innovation. It delays the spread of specialized equipment and tactical doctrine, in some cases until after the war ends. Before Brooks' intervention in 1943, British development efforts suffer from a similar lack of unity. They are divided, piecemeal. The creation of the 79th Armoured Division marks a decisive break with that pattern. Hobart moves quickly. He proves not only imaginative, but willing to act with speed and authority. He pulls together every relevant experimental effort and every specialized capability under a single divisional headquarters. With backing from Churchill, from Brooke, and from his brother-in-law, General Bernard Montgomery, Hobart enjoys a degree of freedom almost unknown in the wartime British Army. And with that freedom, he begins to put into practice the ideas he has carried with him since his earliest commands. The scale of the coming invasion forces the Allies to accept a simple fact: new equipment alone will not be enough. Fresh tactics, revised procedures, and new organizations must match these machines if they are to break the German coastal defenses. Planners working for the Chief of Staff to the Supreme Allied Commander adopt one guiding principle: assault troops must have armored and mechanized means available at the point of attack. They must be able to hit the German fortifications with protected firepower. Major-General Percy Hobart's first task is to define the full extent of the problem. He studies the specialized armor already in development and identifies the shortfalls. He must then decide how to combine these machines with the needs of the assault, and he must do so quickly. Less than a year remains before the invasion. Hobart shapes the division around several essential capabilities. Armor must land first. Beach obstacles must be cleared. Traffic routes must be opened for following formations. Natural and man-made defenses must be breached. Gaps must be crossed. Strong points and pillboxes must be struck with direct armored fire. With these tasks fixed in his mind, Hobart begins building a division capable of meeting them. His next step is to cast his net widely. He examines what already exists, what is on trial, and what might still be created in time. The division becomes a constant laboratory for innovation, a place where new ideas for armored equipment can be tested and refined. Hobart sends a directive to every rank. The challenge, he says, is to land on a defended coast and win quickly through surprise and new technology. He urges all soldiers to submit ideas for improvement. To protect secrecy, he allows men to approach senior officers directly, bypassing normal channels. Reactions to this method are mixed. Some welcome the new energy and the freedom to experiment. Others resent the break with military convention. Yet the results speak for themselves. Hobart's willingness to draw ideas from every level of the division produces a stream of innovations that will soon prove vital to the success of the invasion. The most familiar example is the duplex drive tank. It becomes famous partly because it is the only specialized vehicle used on every invasion beach. Allied planners agree early that armor must reach the beaches as soon as possible. Hobart's task is to find the means to do it. In 1940, the Hungarian engineer Nicholas Straussler creates a practical solution. He already has long experience designing armored vehicles. His new method allows almost any tank, including a full-sized battle tank, to float. A collapsible canvas screen is mounted around the hull. When raised, the screen stands high enough to create the displacement needed for flotation. Stability comes from 36 airtight pillars held upright by folding metal supports. Straussler also designs a steering system driven from the tank's gearbox. This powers propellers mounted at the rear. The tank can now swim to shore and fight once its screen is lowered. Hobart is immediately taken with the idea. He oversees extensive trials to adapt the system to the Sherman. The final duplex drive tank used in Operation Overlord still carries weaknesses. It cannot fire while afloat, a feature many American officers want. The canvas screen is fragile and requires calm seas rarely found in the Channel. Even so, the 79th Armoured Division achieves a remarkable technical feat. They adapt a standard battle tank for a role that ideally needs a purpose-built amphibious design. Their work gives the invasion planners the possibility of early armored firepower on the beaches, but the duplex drive tanks solve only one problem. Once armor reaches the shore, the assault forces still face tens of thousands of mines and obstacles laid by the Germans. The 79th Armoured Division must perfect a method to clear or breach these hazards. Mine rollers, plows, and flails have been examined since the First World War. The heavy mining seen in North Africa during 1941 and 1942 renews interest in mechanical clearance. The best-known design of the period comes from a South African officer, Major A.S. Dutoit. His mine flail uses a rotating drum with short chains that beat the ground and detonate mines. It works reasonably well on Matilda and Valentine tanks in the desert. Hobart sends the concept to his designers for improvement. Normandy requires a more reliable and practical system. The flail is adapted to the Sherman, now accepted as the most versatile platform. The support arms are altered to improve visibility. The drum is strengthened. The most significant change is to power the drum from the tank's own engine, removing the need for an exposed external unit. The result becomes the Sherman Crab. Hobart sees enormous potential and pressures both the War Office and industry to accelerate production. In one letter, he warns that the mine threat is too severe to ignore and that skepticism toward mechanical innovation is dangerous. Plows are also tested, but none consistently outperform the flail. The Walcheren plow proves useful in sandy soil and is used in small numbers. Mine rollers attract attention, but most are too heavy, too awkward, or too fragile. The Canadian indestructible roller device is examined and adopted in limited numbers, though no evidence shows it used in combat. Explosive methods continue to evolve. The Bangalore torpedo remains common, but it exposes engineers to enemy fire. Hobart insists that clearance must be mechanized. One result is the Snake, essentially a giant Bangalore made of steel pipes filled with TNT and pushed forward by a tank. It offers better protection but is slow and vulnerable under fire. Rocket-laid charges offer another path. These early systems are the ancestors of today's line charges. One, called Conga, uses a rocket to pull a hose of explosive across a minefield. It produces a powerful blast, but is judged too unstable for widespread use. Among the most important machines developed by the division is the Churchill Armoured Vehicle Royal Engineer. The AVRE gives sappers a protected work platform for breaching tasks. Its main gun is replaced by a recoiling spigot mortar, the petard. The 60-centimeter projectile, known as the flying dustbin, can destroy bunkers and pillboxes at short range. The AVRE can carry fascines, launch a small box girder bridge, or mount plows, rollers, and bobbins. Many of these devices come from the division's own workshops before being handed to industry for full production. Yet fascines and bridges alone cannot overcome every obstacle. Sea walls and deep ditches still halt armor. This leads to the Churchill ARK, the Armored Ramp Carrier. With no turret and heavy ramps at each end, the ARK drives up to an obstacle, lifts or lowers its ramps, and becomes a bridge. Other tanks then drive over it. 2 ARKs can even be stacked to provide height. These machines prove valuable throughout the fighting in France. Flamethrower tanks also return to prominence. Great Britain begins refining a model in 1938, and by 1942 applies it to the Valentine. The 79th Armoured Division works with the Petroleum Warfare Department to adapt the system to the Churchill. The result is the Crocodile. A pressurized trailer carries thickened fuel, giving the Churchill a range of about 110 meters and roughly 80 seconds of flame. Once empty, the trailer can be jettisoned and the tank continues as a standard Churchill. Another ambitious idea is the Canal Defense Light, a tank fitted with a powerful searchlight. Entire brigades receive the equipment, though it never performs its intended mission. The misleading name confuses even those who use it. The system sees only limited action. Much of this equipment begins as a prototype or a field modification. The 79th Armoured Division improves these ideas in its own workshops before passing mature designs to industry. Hobart drives this process relentlessly. He pushes his officers. He pushes industry. Some resent the pressure. Others admire his results. Sir Miles Thomas of the Nuffield organization later comments that Hobart possesses the inventive spirit needed to turn ideas into practical reality. Many within industry dislike his interference, but their reluctance only drives Hobart to rely more heavily on the division's own Royal Electrical and Mechanical Engineers. Once the Royal Electrical and Mechanical Engineers workshops join the division, Hobart uses them immediately to produce the designs, modifications, and variants that industry later takes forward into mass production. Another of Hobart's immediate challenges is securing ground where the division can test new equipment and train its crews. He quickly obtains 2 major land training areas. The first lies west of Orford in Suffolk. It offers wide maneuver space and the seclusion needed for a program still bound by strict secrecy. The site becomes available only after local residents are relocated, a practice that becomes increasingly common as more troops arrive in Britain. Orford becomes the division's primary test ground in August and September 1943. A second area forms at the Royal Air Force Range at Linney Head in South Wales. It provides limited maneuver room, but its value lies in live firing. Tank crews practice with the 75mm gun and with the AVRE petard, sharpening their accuracy and learning how their weapons behave under realistic conditions. Special facilities are also required for the new amphibious tanks. The first duplex-drive sea trials take place in Scotland, then Wales, and later in South Dorset. Hobart establishes the first instructional centre for these tanks, known as A-Wing, at a secluded site called Fritton Decoy in Norfolk. This becomes the first large freshwater training ground for duplex drive crews. It also marks the start of Hobart's system of internal instructional wings, each led by his own staff and equipped with the best available machines and instructors. At A-Wing, both the teaching methods and the tank's design mature rapidly. Older Valentine duplex drive tanks are modified in on-site workshops. Drawings are prepared and shown to industrial representatives. Through these early efforts, the final concept for the Sherman duplex drive takes shape, and the essential launch and escape drills are defined. The division then perfects duplex drive deployment in southern England. At Stokes Bay on the Solent, Hobart establishes B-Wing, which begins work in October 1943. From January to May 1944, the division works closely with the Royal Navy, refining loading and launching procedures. Every Allied duplex drive tank battalion trains here before the invasion. More than 30,000 launches are conducted with only one fatal accident. During the same period, the division joins trials with the Combined Operations Experimental Establishment in North Devon to test loading procedures for invasion craft. These experiments shape the major combined arms exercises that follow. Hobart then confronts the challenge of coordinating the division's dispersed activities. While most units of the 30th Armoured Brigade remain at Orford, many specialised detachments work in secret facilities scattered across Britain. Security restrictions limit movement between sites, complicating travel, supply, and communication. Hobart and his staff spend much of their time on the road, supervising technical development and ensuring that every unit meets the same training standards. The pace of progress reflects Hobart's drive and constant personal oversight. By late 1943, development has advanced far enough to allow collective training. Until then, each formation has focused on its own specialized vehicle. Small-scale collective exercises begin at Orford and Linney Head in late autumn. These trials allow commanders to see how the various vehicles work together in an amphibious breach. Brigadier Nigel Duncan of the 30th Armoured Brigade later notes that these events allow every element to see itself as part of a single system, and they also help outside commanders understand what the division can provide. These early exercises lead to larger divisional events at Orford in early 1944, Elk II in January, Bull's Head in March, and Smash in April. They prove vital. Crews gain skill and confidence, and technical faults are identified and corrected. These exercises also allow Hobart to demonstrate the division's capabilities to senior leaders, including Churchill, Brooke, Eisenhower, and King George VI. They help finalize the techniques and procedures that will be used in June. These demonstrations also serve one of Hobart's major aims. He wants senior commanders and government officials to understand the division's role and potential. He believes this knowledge is essential to secure resources and ensure the division is used correctly. His biographer, Kenneth Maxey, later writes that Hobart almost places the education of conservative commanders and industrial leaders above the challenge of adapting machines and men. Hobart first presents his division's progress to Montgomery in the winter of 1943. Montgomery is impressed and orders Hobart to make up to 1/3 of his division available to the Americans. Hobart then works to gain American interest. On January 26, 1944, he arranges a large demonstration at Orford for General Eisenhower and Field Marshal Brooke. They arrive to hear Hobart outline his methods and watch the equipment in action. Hobart briefs them on the tactics he develops for these new armored capabilities. They inspect training mock-ups of beach obstacles, minefields, ditches, walls, and pillboxes. The highlight is a full combined arms breach demonstration. They watch crab flails, lane-marking teams, the Boulogne plow, the ARK, the small box girder bridge, the Wurlitzer, snakes, crocodiles, duplex drive tanks, AVRES, and supporting infantry. Eisenhower is particularly impressed. After returning, he advises Bradley to adopt some of these British innovations for the American beaches. Only one of Hobart's special vehicles is eventually accepted by American commanders, the duplex drive tank. It becomes the only specialized armor used on all of the D-Day invasion beaches. 10 units eventually train and equip themselves with duplex drive tanks. 5 are British. The original regiments of 27th Armoured Brigade, the 4th/7th Royal Dragoon Guards, the 13th/18th Royal Hussars, and the 1st East Riding Yeomanry, joined later by the Nottinghamshire Yeomanry and the 15th 19th Hussars. 2 Canadian regiments follow, the 6th Armoured Regiment, the 1st Hussars, and the 10th Armoured Regiment, the Fort Garry Horse. The United States trains 3 battalions, the 71st, the 741st, and the 743rd Tank Battalion. The final phase of training begins in April and May 1944. Units assigned to Operation Overlord join the assault divisions they will support. Major pre-invasion exercises follow, including Tiger and Fabius. Fabius, on May 3, 1944, becomes the last large-scale loading rehearsal for the assault force. These events correct several synchronization problems that will prove crucial in June. Hobart also faces late challenges. Industry struggles to supply enough specialized vehicles. Another problem emerges in January 1944, when covert submarine reconnaissance reveals that the British assault beaches contain soft blue clay. This clay will hinder vehicle movement. Hobart's team searches Britain for similar conditions and tests solutions. The result is the Bobbin, a Churchill tank carrying a roll of reinforced Hessian mat. The weighted end falls in front of the tank, and the mat unrolls as the tank drives forward. Each bobbin carries about 30 meters of matting, roughly 3 meters wide. It allows most vehicles to cross soft ground, though not heavy-tracked machines. The bobbin becomes one more example of the division's ability to solve new problems at speed. The 79th Armoured Division approaches the June invasion as ready as time and limited equipment allow. As Operation Overlord nears, Hobart conducts a final tour of the southern ports. He visits each subunit assigned to the assaulting divisions and reminds them of their immediate mission. Their task is simple and vital. Clear obstacles for the leading infantry. Provide direct fire support when required. These final talks matter. Many of the division's units will soon be dispersed across the assault formations, and Hobart wants every soldier to understand the plan, his intent, and the importance of their work. Brigadier Nigel Duncan, now one of Hobart's most trusted officers, will command the 79th Elements after the initial landings. The division's organization for the assault develops with little friction. This smooth progress reflects Hobart's effort over the previous 6 months to inform and cooperate with the maneuver commanders. He assigns each assaulting division and each independent brigade a liaison officer. These officers serve 2 purposes. They teach supported commanders the capabilities and limitations of the specialized armor, and they provide Hobart with a steady flow of information. This system allows Major-General Hobart to retain influence without formally attaching his units. The 79th Armoured Division's subunits remain in direct support. They rely on the assaulting divisions for employment and local administration, but Hobart, acting as Montgomery's advisor on specialized armor, ensures they are used correctly. Duncan mirrors this approach, reinforcing Hobart's guidance to the supported formations. The final plan places the division's units within the assault formations as arranged. The duplex drive regiments lead the landings. Behind them come the crab flails and the AVREs. Each landing craft tank carries a complete team trained to work as a single group. The crabs land first and flail lanes from the waterline up to the sea wall or the first obstacle belt. The AVREs follow. They drop fascines or launch bridges to cross ditches, craters, and sea walls across the British beaches. On parts of Gold Beach, the bobbin vehicles even roll out their matting before any other vehicle moves ashore. The rehearsals of April and May refine all of these procedures. Final load plans must be squeezed tightly into Landing Craft Tank 4, leaving little room for error. The Channel crossing on June 6, 1944, is difficult. Force 4 seas, and at moments worse, strike the invasion fleet. These conditions pose a direct threat to duplex drive operations. Hobart knows the specialized armor teams rely on the fire support provided by the Sherman duplex drives. If the duplex drive tanks fail to reach the beach, or if the sea delays them, the assault becomes far more dangerous. The timings are precise. The clearance teams are meant to land close behind the duplex drives. Without the tanks, the Crabs and AVREs must use their own guns while clearing obstacles. Their crews are trained in gunnery, but performing both tasks simultaneously complicates and slows their work, just as the first waves of infantry reach the shore. On Gold Beach, the assault begins without the duplex drive tanks. The sea is too rough for safe launches. The Nottinghamshire Yeomanry attempt the crossing and lose 8 tanks before reaching the shore. German fire at Le Hamel is severe, destroying most of the first flail tanks as they advance. The strongpoints at La Rivière and Le Hamel, armed with 75 and 88 mm guns, withstand repeated naval and air bombardments. Only when Sherman Crabs, AVREs, and supporting Centaur tanks move forward are the batteries finally silenced. Engineers and specialized armor then fight their way through mines, bogging, and soft blue clay to open multiple exits. By dusk, more than 1,000 yards of beach have been cleared. On Juno Beach, heavy seas delay the arrival of armor and conceal many obstacles. The Canadian infantry endure intense fire until the duplex drive tanks of the 6th Canadian Armoured Regiment reach the shore and knock out several German guns and machine gun posts. The close-set coastal villages complicate the advance, and the beach itself is thick with mines. Despite congestion, AVREs push inland and open 4 exits by 9 a.m., allowing Canadian forces to advance by early afternoon. Sword Beach sees mixed levels of resistance. The coastline is heavily built up, and sea conditions remain poor. Even so, the 13th 18th Royal Hussars land 33 of their 34 duplex drive tanks. With the support of Crabs, AVREs, and bulldozers, British forces clear 5 exits within the first hour. Fighting is close and often room to room, as German troops hold many seaside buildings. By evening, the main objectives are taken. Across all 3 British and Canadian beaches, the 79th Armoured Division plays a decisive role. 13 of 18 planned lanes are opened. The division suffers 179 casualties and significant vehicle losses, but its success stands in sharp contrast to the heavy losses and slow advance on Omaha Beach, where American engineers fight exposed under severe fire. Despite difficult conditions, the 79th Armoured Division proves essential in clearing obstacles, neutralizing strongpoints, and securing the beachheads. Major-General Hobart reaches Normandy on the evening of June 8, 1944. Most of his staff remain in Great Britain, so he immediately begins touring his units to judge morale and understand how the battle has unfolded. His first concern is the proper employment of his specialized subunits. He quickly learns that some infantry formations have already begun using AVREs as lead assault tanks during the attacks on Bayeux on June 7, 1944, and Bazenville on June 8. Others are pushing Crabs and AVREs forward as spearheads. Hobart is far from pleased. He notes that infantry commanders are impressed by the psychological effect of an AVRE on the enemy, but this only tempts them to expose the vehicle to fire it is not designed to withstand. The AVRE's petard has limited range, and these vehicles are not meant to lead conventional attacks. For several weeks, Hobart moves constantly between his main headquarters in England and his tactical headquarters in Normandy. During this time, he ensures that 21st Army Group and its major subordinate commands understand the value of specialized armor. These machines cannot be squandered or diverted from their defined roles. Agreements are made requiring the 79th Armored Division headquarters to be informed of any operation involving these vehicles. Hobart appoints Brigadier Duncan, commander of the 30th Armored Brigade, as his personal representative to enforce these decisions. One operation stands out for its full cooperation from all headquarters: the assault on the Douvres-la-Délivrande radar station on June 17, 1944. The strongpoint holds 5 50mm anti-tank guns, numerous machine guns, twin Spandau positions, and more than 200 defenders. It has resisted British attacks for over a week. A plan is drawn up for No. 41 Royal Marine Commando. It includes AVREs from the 26th Assault Squadron, Royal Engineers, and Crabs from B Squadron, 22nd Dragoons. 2 troops of AVREs from 77 Assault Squadron conduct a diversion. Planning is precise, rehearsals are thorough, and artillery smoke and high explosive support every phase. The assault succeeds with only 1 AVRE lost and 10 casualties. It becomes the first deliberate infantry operation to employ specialized armor away from the beaches. Yet the question remains, how close should this support be in future battles? The full value of AVREs, Crabs, Crocodiles, and duplex drive tanks in post-invasion operations is still not understood across all British commands. This issue becomes Hobart's main focus as he prepares to move his main headquarters permanently to the continent in July. As soon as possible, Major-General Hobart and his senior officers begin speaking with crews from the division and with the formations they support. Their aim is simple: gather first-hand impressions of how the specialized armor performs in its first battles. Every account is collected, analyzed, and turned into a series of operational notes circulated across 21st Army Group. These notes capture the early lessons drawn from the first opposed use of the new vehicles. The initial assault methods work well. When weather and casualties force changes to the plan, junior leaders show initiative and flexibility, keeping the advance moving. Team loading in landing craft tank also proves sound. Cooperation between Crabs and AVREs is particularly effective, confirming the value of long months of integrated training. The duplex drive tanks show mixed results. Weather determines success. On Gold Beach, no duplex drive tanks launch at all. The 4th 7th Royal Dragoon Guards and the Nottinghamshire Yeomanry land directly from their craft. On Juno Beach, the 6th Canadian Armoured Regiment lands 21 of the 29 tanks it launches, while the Fort Garry Horse bring their tanks straight in. At Sword Beach, the 13th to 18th Royal Hussars achieve one of the most successful launches of the day, landing 31 of 34 tanks. At Utah Beach, the 75th Tank Battalion lands almost every duplex drive tank it launches. On Omaha, the 741st Tank Battalion loses nearly all of its launch tanks to the sea, while the 743rd Tank Battalion, which lands its tanks directly from landing craft tank, brings all of them ashore intact. A flaw in the duplex drive's flotation screen emerges during the landings. A weak top rail causes several collapses in rough seas. Once the problem is identified, fitters from the 79th Armoured Division correct the issue after reaching France. The Crabs perform strongly. They clear lanes through minefields and provide direct fire when needed, but they lack the maneuverability required for close infantry support. Commanders recommend that Crabs remain focused on their primary mission, clearing lanes and attack fixed positions only when necessary. The AVREs complete many of their tasks. Their distinctive shape makes them favored targets, and several are knocked out. The small box girder bridge exceeds expectations, though it must be replaced by fixed bridging as soon as engineers secure the exits. Fascines work well in ditches and craters, but they prove ineffective against sea walls. The petard mortar is highly valued. It destroys obstacles and gun positions with brutal efficiency. The bobbin works initially, but cannot withstand heavy traffic. It is too short and fails in tidal conditions. Steel matting must replace it after the first day. Hobart concludes that only a purpose-built engineer vehicle will fully meet future operational needs. The Walcheren plough performs well on Sword Beach near Lyon-sur-Mer, but inland, where the ground hardens, it becomes less effective. A more robust design is recommended. Minefields themselves prove less formidable than expected. Some mines contain more explosive than anticipated, and their fuses differ from intelligence estimates. New trials are ordered so clearance procedures and equipment can be improved. Armored bulldozers prove extremely useful. As the tide recedes, they clear obstacles more safely than unarmored dozers. American forces rely heavily on tank dozers, which offer better protection, but also demonstrate shortages of British armored bulldozers. The 79th Armoured Division requests additional tank dozers for future operations. A major challenge appears with post-invasion maintenance. Spare parts for crabs and AVREs are not immediately available. Specialist workshops and fitters take time to reach the bridgehead. Many vehicles remain out of action because repairs are not prioritized. This delays the division's readiness through the first critical weeks. The first operational use of specialized armor is nonetheless highly successful. These vehicles play a major role in the British achievement of their D-Day objectives. General Eisenhower later remarks that the relatively low British casualties, compared with Omaha, owe much to the novel mechanical devices used in the assault. He states that the amphibious tanks are essential despite losses, and that AVRES and flails perform excellent work clearing the exits. He concludes that the assault forces might not have secured their foothold without these machines. Eisenhower judges the duplex drive tanks indispensable and the rest of Hobart's Funnies highly effective wherever employed. Hobart sees the praise, but his focus shifts immediately to the future. He knows the division's real test lies ahead. As scattered units return to the 79th Armoured Division, training resumes at once. Infantry and armoured commanders are reluctant to release their attached specialists, but Hobart resolves this quickly. Once regrouped, the division adjusts its methods based on the first lessons of combat. Crews maintain and refit their vehicles. Modifications are made to crabs, AVREs, and crocodiles to correct the weaknesses exposed on D-Day. Innovation continues without pause. New ideas are tested as the division prepares for its next mission. Once the beachhead is secure, the Allies face an unexpected challenge: the terrain itself. The hedgerows of Normandy, the bocage, shape every movement. Planners knew these features existed, yet few believed they would hinder a breakout. The reality is immediate and unforgiving. The bocage restricts movement, limits visibility, and turns every field into a fortified position. It becomes one of the greatest natural allies the Germans possess. British and American forces attempt similar methods to overcome the hedgerow problem, but early results are uneven. The British encounter fewer hedgerows in their sector, and they already possess vehicles well suited to the task. After 2 weeks of fighting, the tactical headquarters of the 79th Armoured Division recognizes that AVREs can blast effective gaps through the earth banks with their petard mortars. Crocodiles soon join these teams. Their combination of flame and high explosive helps break German positions concealed behind the hedgerows and enables infantry to advance through ground previously locked down by enemy fire. The Americans face an even greater challenge. Their sector contains far more extensive bocage country, and they lack the specialized machinery the British possess. Tank dozers provide some help to the infantry, but there are far too few to meet the demand. An improvised solution emerges from the field. Soldiers weld steel prongs to the front of Sherman tanks, creating the Kulin cutter, an invention that becomes famous as the Bocage Buster. These modified Shermans carve gaps through the hedgerows and restore mobility to the battlefield. The innovation, combined with increasingly tight cooperation between infantry and armor, helps American forces finally break out of Normandy. The contrast between the two armies highlights the advantage Britain enjoys in having a centralized organization for specialized armor, ready to meet varied tactical demands from the first day ashore. After the breakout from Normandy, the assault teams of the 79th Armoured Division support every major attack on the Channel ports. The division applies the techniques honed in England and proven on D-Day. Crabs and AVREs lift mines, cross obstacles with fascines and bridges, and demolish concrete positions. Crocodiles enter large-scale use for the first time, and their presence has an immediate effect. The sight and sound of their flame projectors often compel German defenders to surrender strongpoints without prolonged fighting. From September 10th to September 12th, 1944, the division supports 1st Corps in the assault on Le Havre. Brigadier Duncan commands the assault force. His group includes 2 Crab regiments, an AVRE regiment, 2 Crocodile squadrons, and several newly converted Kangaroo units. The Kangaroo appears at this stage of the campaign. It is a converted M7 Priest, its gun removed to create an armored personnel carrier. The idea comes from Lieutenant General Guy Simons of 2nd Canadian Corps, who wants infantry to keep pace with armor during rapid advances. The concept spreads quickly. Both Sherman and Ram tanks are soon converted, and 2 armored personnel carrier regiments, the 49th Royal Tank Regiment and the 1st Canadian Armored Personnel Carrier Regiment, join the 79th Armored Division's 31st Tank Brigade. At Le Havre, the assault begins after heavy air and artillery preparation. Crabs and AVREs open lanes through thick mine belts and obstacles. Crocodiles advance behind them, firing flame into defended positions. Kangaroos follow with infantry, protecting the tanks from Panzerfaust teams. Apart from the mounted infantry, the method mirrors the techniques perfected in Normandy. The attack is significant because it marks the first large-scale use of the full assault system. Crabs clearing mines, AVREs breaching obstacles, and crocodiles neutralizing strongpoints. The crabs struggle at times due to dense minefields and determined German resistance. AVRE crews employ snakes to assist in clearing lanes. The close integration of these vehicles proves essential. With coordinated support, the 49th and 51st Divisions advance rapidly. Le Havre falls in under 3 days. British losses are remarkably low. Only 50 soldiers are killed, an outcome that underscores the growing effectiveness of specialized armor in assault operations. A week after the fall of Le Havre, the 3rd Canadian Division launches its assault on Boulogne. The infantry lead, clearing the outer ring of defenses. Once these positions are secured, 3 armored columns move into the city, each commanded by a lieutenant colonel and each led by specialized tanks of the 79th Armored Division. Brigadier G.S. Knight of 31st Armored Brigade directs the division's subunits. Bomber aircraft are tasked to smash openings in the perimeter. Kangaroos follow, carrying infantry forward to secure the breaches. Bulldozers move behind them to fill craters and stabilize the ground. Each assault team is built around a powerful combination of specialized armor. 1 troop of crabs, 2 troops of crocodiles, and a half-troop of AVREs. The fighting in Boulogne is far harder than at Le Havre. German resistance is fierce, and armor struggles within the narrow, confined streets. The battle becomes a methodical advance, block by block. After 4 days, the city falls. Crocodiles prove decisive in the urban fighting. Their flame projectors break the will of defenders. Entrenched in houses, cellars, and fortified cell blocks. The assault method works well once again, but one lesson is clear. The heavy, high-explosive bombing designed to create openings proves counterproductive. The craters and rubble slow the armor, block the kangaroos, and complicate the movement of engineers. The technique is abandoned in later port attacks. While these battles unfold along the Channel coast, U.S. forces assault Brest, fighting their own intense struggle to reduce one of the most heavily fortified ports in western France. American commanders have long sought flame tanks for use in Europe. Reports from the Pacific highlight their effectiveness, and the British crocodiles attract particular attention early in 1944. The United States requests access to the weapon, but Britain cannot meet the demand before Operation Overlord. Sherman hulls are urgently required for other tasks, and Churchill crocodile production remains limited. By autumn 1944, the request resurfaces. The 9th U.S. Army, commanded by Lieutenant General William H. Simpson, argues that flame tanks are essential for reducing fortified positions along the German defensive lines. His appeal reaches Montgomery, who agrees to lend a subunit from the 79th Armoured Division. B Squadron 141 Royal Armoured Corps is assigned to provide crocodiles for American operations. Their immediate task is to support the attack on Fort Montbarry, a strong point that dominates approaches to Brest. The plan relies heavily on close-range flame support. The battle becomes a model of effective combined arms cooperation. Armor, infantry, engineers, mortars, and artillery work in unison to overwhelm the defenses. This marks the first time a unit of the 79th Armoured Division fights directly under American command. Both Simpson and Major-General W.E. Sands of the 29th Infantry Division praised the British effort and encourage further cooperation between the two armies. Calais and Cap Gris-Nez follow soon after. The heavy guns at these sites dominate the Channel and must be neutralized. Brigadier Knight again commands the 79th Armoured Division elements supporting the 3rd Canadian Division. His force is substantial: 5 Crab squadrons, 2 Crocodile squadrons, and 2 AVRE squadrons. The defenses are formidable. Wire, mines, tank ditches, and thick concrete protect each perimeter. Many casemates withstand artillery fire, tank rounds, and sustained machine gun attack. Only combined fire, artillery barrages, AVRE charges, tank gunnery, crocodile flame, and close infantry assault finally breaks each position. Lessons are recorded after every engagement, refining the assault techniques further. Between September 25th and September 30th, 1944, the remaining strongpoints fall, and the Channel coast becomes safe from German heavy guns for the first time in 4 years. The division's next major task is the clearance of the Scheldt estuary and the opening of Antwerp. The operation demands several amphibious assaults. Walcheren Island must be taken because its guns dominate the entire Channel. The 79th Armoured Division is assigned 2 roles. First, its crabs, AVREs, duplex drive tanks, and bulldozers must break the coastal defenses and clear the exits. Second, it must deliver assault troops across the water and push them through the cleared lanes. The transport responsibility falls to the division's newest vehicles, the Buffaloes. These American-made tracked amphibians can carry a platoon of infantry, a jeep, or similar loads. In September, the 11th Royal Tank Regiment hands in its Canal Defense light tanks and receives Buffaloes, joining the division's amphibious force. Other engineer units also exchange their AVRES for Buffaloes, rapidly expanding the fleet. Training begins at once. By early October, small amphibious assaults take place along the southern shoreline of the estuary. The 11th Royal Tank Regiment provides the Buffaloes. Duplex drive tanks from the Staffordshire Yeomanry join them. Their support to the 3rd Canadian Division is a notable success. Buffaloes carry 2 infantry brigades and more than 600 vehicles in 880 loads. Only 26 casualties occur, and just 3 buffaloes are lost. A larger assault follows on October 26, 1944. The 52nd Lowland Infantry Division forms the assault force, while the 79th Armoured Division provides buffaloes and duplex drive tanks. More than 700 loads are ferried across the Scheldt. The duplex drive tanks struggle with the steep banks and dikes and cannot provide timely fire support, but the operation sets the conditions for the final attack on Walcheren. On November 1, 1944, the 79th Armoured Division supports the main assault on Walcheren Island by No. 4 Commando Brigade. Conditions are extremely difficult. The Germans reinforce the dikes with mines, wire, and concrete. Mud, rubble, and obstacles restrict movement. Near Vlissingen, they fortify a 6-meter sea wall that rivals the defences seen in Normandy. Unlike D-Day, however, the attackers have no time to rehearse. German artillery rings the island, and neither naval nor air bombardment can silence the guns. Several landing craft tanks are hit. 2 assault craft must turn back. Those that reach the shore face deep clay. Many vehicles bog down within minutes. Crews waste precious time trying to free stuck armor. Fewer than half the vehicles that land manage to push inland. Landing craft vehicles, lighter and more mobile, carry infantry across the mud with greater ease. The Germans hold on for almost 3 days. Flooded ground, caused by repeated breaches in the dikes, complicates every movement of troops and vehicles. It takes more than a week to clear the island entirely. Buffaloes perform well in the flooded terrain, but most other specialist vehicles contribute little, simply because of the mud. Hobart and his staff record every lesson meticulously for future reference. Hobart underscores the strain of these operations in a letter dated October 3, 1944. He writes that he is engaged in a race against time to integrate new units and equipment. Many soldiers have never trained in Britain, and much of the new equipment remains untested. He instructs Brigadier Duncan to establish training and instructional wings to bring these capabilities together quickly and effectively. With Hobart's new instructions, the division continues to prioritize training and development as it pushes toward Germany. Specialist instructional wings are created on the continent, mirroring the work once carried out in Britain. Each wing forms in response to an urgent operational problem identified by the maneuver units fighting at the front. F-Wing is the first to open. It is established at Hobart's request at Scheldt in Belgium on December 12, 1944. Its immediate task is to find a solution to the growing shoe mine threat. These small anti-personnel mines, often made of wood, cannot be detected by conventional means. Trials begin at once. The staff test rollers, including a fresh evaluation of the Canadian indestructible roller device, and examine new plows and rakes. They even explore the idea of burning mines with crocodiles. The eventual answer is a device called the centipede, a frame carrying multiple rollers towed behind a small tracked vehicle, usually a weasel. Second Army later employs the centipede on several occasions until the end of the war. F-Wing also trials new smoke generators, an improved armored ramp carrier, updated small box girder bridges, and new carpet-laying equipment for AVREs. The wing examines a British tank dozer as well, a turretless Centaur adapted for heavy engineer work. The design enters production in Britain and sees service in Germany after the Rhine crossing. Hobart views the wing as a clear success and intends its methods to serve future tasks. G-Wing follows on January 15, 1945. It opens beside the River Maas, near Maastricht, in the Netherlands. Its task is to work with 12 core staff to design the best method for a deliberate crossing of the Rhine. The wing begins testing equipment and tactics for river assault, and soon expands. Newly converted duplex drive and crocodile regiments arrive for training, including the 7th Royal Tank Regiment, the 11th Royal Tank Regiment, the 44th Royal Tank Regiment, and the Staffordshire Yeomanry. By the end of January 1945, the 79th Armoured Division reaches its wartime peak. 5 brigades, 17 regiments, more than 21,000 soldiers, and 1,500 armoured vehicles. Its size allows it to invest so many units in the training wing system. H-Wing opens at Nijmegen, in the Netherlands, on February 12, 1945. This wing is run by the divisional engineers. Its responsibility is to perfect the method of heavy rafting on the Rhine. Each engineer assault squadron must learn Class 50/60 rafting. 6 squadrons complete the program by March 1945. Their training becomes vital for the assault to come. The last wing to open is J-Wing, established on March 4, 1945. Its mission is to solve the problem of navigation for buffaloes and duplex drive tanks in poor visibility. This difficulty has caused trouble in Normandy and again in the Scheldt. It cannot be ignored with the wide, fast-flowing Rhine ahead. J-Wing experiments with compasses, beacons, and radio aids. A radio-based system proves most reliable. New equipment is sourced, fitted to vehicles, and crews trained, all within 3 weeks of the crossing. Activity across the wings remains intense during the operations in the Reichswald and Rhineland, Operation Veritable, and Operation Grenade. Hobart insists that every method must be fixed, briefed, and rehearsed before battle. He remembers the problems at the Scheldt and refuses to repeat them. He also ensures that experimentation never outruns safety or common sense. He manages the risk personally, fully supported by Field Marshal Montgomery. The wings function simultaneously as test centers, development teams, and training schools. Units continue to use them only days before the Rhine crossing. This system works only because Hobart maintains tight, centralized control of his division. By March 21, 1945, the wings have completed their tasks. Their staff and vehicles return to their parent regiments. Much of this success is owed to the Royal Electrical and Mechanical Engineers. Their workshops operate without pause, repairing and modifying equipment, maintaining the many duplex drive tanks, and recovering stranded or sunken craft from the training zones. Their work keeps the division ready for the Rhine. By March 1945, Allied forces gather along the west bank of the Rhine, ready for one final advance into Germany. The British codename for the crossing is Operation Plunder. Planned, rehearsed, and executed on a massive scale, it is second only to the Normandy landings. The 79th Armoured Division prepares intensely. Its training wings work at full capacity. Buffalo and duplex drive crews train alongside the infantry and armor they will support. Equipment maintenance becomes a central concern. Many Sherman duplex drive tanks require new flotation screens. Much of their gear has been discarded, damaged, or allowed to decay during earlier operations. SHAF message traffic from this period reveals American concern about DD tank readiness. Correspondence between the War Department and Army Group commanders shows uncertainty over how many tanks remain serviceable. Spare parts are scarce. U.S. forces must rely heavily on British stocks to make their duplex drive fleet fit for the coming assault. The tanks are vital to both armies. The British plan mirrors D-Day. Duplex drive tanks will lead the assault. Buffaloes will replace Crabs and AVREs as the key specialized vehicles of the opening phase, carrying the waves of infantry across the Rhine. On the night of March 23, 1945, units load their buffaloes and begin the crossing. As the assault unfolds, duplex drive tanks cross in large numbers. Several bog down on the muddy eastern bank, but enough reach firm ground to provide immediate fire support to the leading infantry. During the night, another long-prepared vehicle finally enters combat. The Canal Defense Light Tank is used to illuminate the far bank on the nights of 24th and 25th March. Its powerful beam guides the ferrying buffaloes across the wide river and helps deter swimmer and mine threats from upstream. German gunners target the lights at once, but only one CDL tank is lost. After years of secrecy and uncertainty, the squadron completes its task and secures its place in the division's history. Between March 24th and March 26th, 1944, the 4 Buffalo regiments make more than 3,800 crossings. They carry the assault troops of the Highland Division, the 3rd Canadian Division, the 43rd Wessex Infantry Division, and the 15th Scottish Infantry Division. Only 38 casualties occur, and just 9 Buffaloes are lost. An extraordinary achievement, given the scale of the operation. On March 26, 1945, Churchill and Brooke join Montgomery and Hobart for a crossing in a Buffalo. Churchill addresses the assembled crews and praises their work. It is a vast undertaking executed with remarkable precision. Operation Plunder marks the final proof of the 79th Armoured Division's value, a division built on innovation, tested in fire, now delivering success on one of the last great battlefields of the war. The end of the war in Germany brings the end of the 79th Armoured Division. With victory secured, the formation begins to disband. Its units are reassigned to British forces across several theatres, and the division that once spearheaded so many assaults gradually disappears from the order of battle. On August 20th, 1945, the 79th Armoured Division is officially disbanded. Its achievements during its short life are remarkable. It advances equipment design, organizational method, and tactical practice on a scale unmatched by any other armored formation of the war. Its vehicles, Crabs, AVREs, Crocodiles, duplex drive tanks, Buffaloes, reshape amphibious and assault operations across Northwest Europe. The division pays a price for its success. 379 tanks lost, roughly a quarter of its frontline fleet, and just under 1,500 men killed, wounded, or missing, about 7% of its peak strength. Soon afterward, Major-General Percy Hobart is appointed to command the new specialized armor development establishment, built from the surviving elements of the 79th Armored Division and the former Assault Training and Development Center. The organization continues the work he began. Under Hobart's direction, it tests, refines, and advances specialized armor for future operations, preserving the legacy of the division and ensuring that its innovations shape the armored forces of the post-war world. And that concludes today's episode. Today, we explored the remarkable story of the 79th Armored Division, an extraordinary formation that transformed the way the Allies fought, planned, and ultimately prevailed in Northwest Europe. From the minefields of Normandy to the fortified ports along the Channel coast, from the flooded battles on Walcheren to the vast Rhine crossing of Operation Plunder, the division's specialized armor proved again and again that innovation could overcome the most entrenched defenses. Their vehicles were unconventional, their methods often unorthodox, yet their results were unmistakable. The legacy of the 79th Armored Division lies not only in the victories they helped secure, but also in the countless doctrinal, technical, and tactical lessons they left behind. Lessons that shaped post-war armored engineering and influenced how modern armies approach assault operations. If you enjoyed this episode and want to dive deeper into the world of special and specialized forces in the Second World War, be sure to follow the podcast, leave a review, and share it with others who appreciate military history. To explore more, including photographs, maps, original documents, and the full list of sources behind this series, visit the webpage about the 79th Armored Division at our website, www.worldwar2-srf.com. In preparing this episode on the 79th Armored Division, we drew on a number of important sources that help illuminate both the creation of the division and its extraordinary operational history. One of the most valuable modern studies is Hobart's 79th Armoured Division at war by Richard Doherty. It offers a clear and detailed account of how Percy Hobart returned to service, how the division was shaped around specialized armor, and how its vehicles were employed from Normandy through the advance into Germany. We also consulted the original wartime history, the story of the 79th Armoured Division, October 1942 to June 1945. Written by officers who served within the formation, it provides contemporary insight, wartime photographs, and maps that capture the scale and complexity of the division's operations. Alongside these works, we referred to several specialized studies dedicated to Hobart's Funnies and their technical development, including Geoffrey Futter's The Funnies and N.W. Duncan's 79th Armoured Division, Hobo's Funnies. These titles help trace the evolution of the division's equipment, how it was conceived, tested, and brought into action across Northwest Europe. Together, these sources reveal just how ambitious and innovative the 79th Armoured Division truly was, and how its specialized vehicles reshaped the Allied approach to assault operations during the Second World War. I'm Michael Weyers. Thank you for listening, and join me next time as we continue to uncover the hidden stories, daring innovations, and extraordinary achievements of the special and specialized units who fought on the edge of possibility in World War II. And that concludes this mission briefing, fellow warriors of knowledge. We've navigated through the trenches of information, delving deep into the battlefields of history. As we wrap up this episode in our campaign for understanding, remember that knowledge is your most potent weapon. Stay vigilant and keep sharpening your intellectual arsenal. We'll rendezvous again for another episode, continuing our relentless pursuit of enlightenment. Until then, keep your mind sharp, your curiosity burning, and your determination unwavering. Simultaneously, you are hereby alerted to our outposts on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, fortifying our information dissemination. Should you possess any pertinent intelligence to bolster our mission, transmit your findings with no hesitation. Your contributions shall be prominently acknowledged within the operational archives. Furthermore, for those prepared to provide substantial reinforcement, navigate to our Patreon forward base and enlist. Your support is integral to sustaining our forward thrust. Carry forth the legacy. Dismissed.